Hi, it's Amalia and Alana again, doing our history stories, except this time we aren't drunk. Kern, our friend who's a rocket scientist who was in some of the other videos, bet me it is right now 11:14 at night. He bet me I would not drink a cup of coffee at 11:14 at night. And he's going to owe me $1 because we bet $1 that I wouldn't. He bet $1 that I would not do it. We're not drunk right now, so this is the coffee episode. This is the coffee episode of Drunk History by Amalia, who's hot, who's not. Isn't that what we called it? What did we call it? She doesn't remember either. It's some name. All right, so today...
It's not Drunk History. Well,
no, Drunk History is taken. It's not officially Drunk History. We just happen to be drunk. It's not affiliated with the famous Drunk History. But here's our coffee episode. Alana refused to have coffee because it's 11 o'clock at night. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be telling a history story. Okay, so the first thing I have to explain to you is what Marfan syndrome is. It's spelled Marfins. And it is a connective tissue disorder that is semi-well known because Michael Phelps, the Olympic gold medalist, has it. And I have it slightly. My arms are super long. They're like 5 inches longer than my total height because of this like genetic marker in my DNA that made my connective tissue weak. And so since your bones grow against your connective tissue, like if you have weak connective tissue, your arms and legs get super long. So anyway, the other person who is famous, who they think had it, they're pretty sure, was Tutankhamun's father, Pharaoh Tut, King Tut's father, Akhenaten, also known as Amenhotep IV. And he was not supposed to be the pharaoh. His older brother was supposed to be the pharaoh. And so his mother, Queen Tai, who was from Nubia, taught him her religion instead of his brother, who was taught, about Ra and, the Egyptian gods like Ra and Amun-Ra, same person, Isis, all those guys, Osiris. So his older brother gets indoctrinated in the Egyptian mythology, but meanwhile, Amenhotep IV, the second son, his mother, Queen Tai, starts teaching him about her religion, which she worshipped Aten, who is the god of truth. So, and a sun god. So he's like a rival to Ra, but he was a Nubian sun god. And he is also the god of truth. So when his older brother died, he became the heir. And then his father died, and then he became the pharaoh. And because he didn't worship Osiris, Ra, or Isis, or Hathor, or any of the Egyptian gods, he worshipped Aten. He changed the art style of the Egyptian kingdom. Like, instead of, how rigid, it'll be like this. Like, I am a pharaoh, and they're, like, really rigid, and then they're, like, turned to the side, and their eyes are, like, you've seen Egyptian art. You know what that looks like. So he did not do that. He wanted realistic depictions of people. So it's the first person in history that we know of who was like, you know what? I want a realistic depiction of me as a statue instead of like some kind of idealized version of me. So he made all the art in Egypt like that. Like, it was all realistic looking. So like it doesn't even look like Egyptian art because it's realistic looking, and Egyptian art is usually very stylized. So you can tell he has Marfan syndrome because of the very truthful representations of his body that are sculpted that look exactly like he has Marfan syndrome, which means that you have a concave hole in your chest, like not a hole, but like a depression in your chest, and your thigh bones are super long, and your arms are super long, and then often people with Marfan syndrome will have, like, a kind of weird belly that's, like, a little bit lower than a belly, like, it's a weird, I don't know, I have it, like, slightly. And then, super long legs, super long arms. We don't know about his heart condition, which is the other thing that is a marker of Marfan syndrome, but anyway, so my theory is it's a genetic disorder, right? So probably I am related to this person. He was Tutankhamun's father, which means that I should be the heir to King Tut's grave goods. I think they should all go to me. Or split among all the people with Marfan syndrome in the world, since we're probably all related, since we have the same genetic typo thing in our DNA. Now, I'm not a geneticist, so I have no idea if that's true, but I like to think of myself as a direct descendant of the same bloodline, anyway, as Akhenaten and Tutankhamun, even though I'm white. I know that's a little weird, because, it's kind of appropriative of me to be like, I'm Egyptian. I'm not really Egyptian. So, anyway, Akhenaten was a very interesting figure because he was a monotheist, and he's also the first recorded monotheist in history. Monotheist means one god, in case that's not obvious. So, whereas the Egyptians were pantheists, they believed in many gods, Akhenaten started out as Amenhotep IV, and then changed his name to Akhenaten, because he worshipped Aten, Akhenaten, as you can see where that name came from. So, he was like, I'm a monotheist, and everybody has to worship Aten, and also we're going to move the capital to a new place called Amarna, which was not a city before, or even a settlement. They just, picked a place, somewhere along the Nile, and was like, let's build a city here, and this will be the new capital. And he wasted a whole fuck ton of money. Just so much money. He would just throw gold out into the crowd. He'd just be like, have some gold, poor people. I'm just so rich. He was wasting money right and left. And meanwhile, it costs a lot of money to build a whole new city, right? So he wanted to, and he was pharaoh, so they did it. And then the priesthood of Amun-Ra probably killed him because they were so angry at him, because they were very powerful in the previous regime. And then they put his son, King Tut, in charge, and later, in the 20th century, a bunch of fucking British archaeologists dig up Tut's tomb, and they're like, wow, we've never found an intact tomb before. This is going to be the most famous pharaoh in the world, and there's a curse on it, and everybody talk about the curse and get a weird blood disorder or something. The curse isn't real. That's totally fake. But, so anyway, Akhenaten was probably murdered by Amun-Ra, by the priesthood of Amun-Ra, and then they think that King Tut was also murdered by the priesthood of Amun-Ra, because at the end of his life, his grave goods start to show pictures of Aten, the god of truth. So they're like, well, he might have backslid a little bit on being a pantheist and been like, well, my father was a monotheist, and I want to be a monotheist too. So anyway, I believe... Oh, and I would also have sex with Akhenaten, but not Tutankhamun, because he's too young for me. He died when he was 19. Way too young for me. But Akhenaten, yes. Because we both have the same genetic disorder. Actually, no, I wouldn't have sex with him. That doesn't make any sense, right? Because we're probably related. Ew. Isn't that gross? Ew, how could you say that, Amalia? Ew. Ha ha! That's my joke for this episode. Alana's laughing. I'm drinking this coffee, Karen. You can't stop me. You owe me $1. Alright, end of transmission.